The spotlight burns against my closed eyelids even before I step onto the stage. I can feel it waiting for me, that circle of white-hot exposure that transforms me from Francesca Moretti, 26-year-old nobody from Queens, into something else entirely, something worth watching. My fingers tremble as I smooth down the emerald silk dress Dante bought me last month. The fabric whispers against my thighs, expensive and delicate, so different from the second-hand clothes I wore before him, before everything changed, before I started believing in fairy tales again. 5 minutes, Frankie. Marco's weathered hand squeezes my shoulder as he passes, his cologne, cheap and overpowering, cutting through the backstage air thick with hairspray and nervous energy. He's been managing this club, Velvet Noir, for 15 years, and his gravelly voice carries the weight of 1,000 performances, 1,000 dreams either realized or shattered on that stage beyond the heavy curtain. I nod, not trusting my voice yet. It needs to warm slowly, like coaxing life into cold hands. The dressing room mirror reflects someone I'm still learning to recognize. Smoky eyes that make my hazel irises appear almost golden. Dark hair falling in waves past my shoulders. Lips painted the color of aged wine. Dante says I look like a film star from the golden age. He says a lot of things. The thought of him sends a flutter through my chest. Equal parts anticipation and something else I can't quite name. He promised he'd be here tonight, front row center, watching me like he always does with those intense dark eyes that seem to see straight through to my bones. 3 months we've been together, and I still feel 16 when he looks at me that way. You're going to kill it tonight. The voice comes from behind me, and I turn to see Angela adjusting her costume. She's on after me, doing a jazz set that'll bring the house down like it always does. Her brown eyes meet mine in the mirror, warm with genuine affection. In this business, real friendship is rarer than perfect pitch. That new song you've been working on? Pure magic, babe. Thanks, Ang. I manage a smile, but my stomach is twisting itself into knots. The new song, Shadows and Light, is the most personal thing I've ever written, and I'll be performing it tonight for the first time. Every word carved from the darkest parts of my past, the years of struggling, of being invisible, of singing in subway stations for pocket change, while the world rushed past without seeing me. Until Dante stopped. Until he heard me. The memory of that day 6 months ago remains crystal clear. Autumn rain falling in sheets. My guitar case open on the grimy tile. My voice carrying through the 59th Street station as commuters float around me like water around a stone. Then suddenly, expensive Italian shoes in my line of vision. A hand dropping $100 bill into my case. And when I looked up, those eyes, dark as midnight, assessing me with an intensity that made my breath catch. "You have real talent," he'd said, his voice carrying a faint accent that made every word sound like silk. "You shouldn't be wasting it here." 3 weeks later, I had an audition at Velvet Noir. 5 weeks after that, I had a regular Friday night slot. And somewhere in between, I'd fallen completely, desperately in love with Dante Caruso, the sophisticated art dealer who seemed to appear in my life like magic, turning everything to gold with his touch. "Frankie?" Angela's voice pulls me back to the present. "You okay? You look a million miles away. Just nervous." I force brightness into my tone, shaking out my hands to release the tension. "Big crowd tonight, apparently. Marco said we're completely booked. You've got this." She squeezes my hand, her warmth grounding me. "Remember, they're not here to judge you. They're here to feel something. Give them that, and they're yours." The door swings open, and Marco pokes his head in. "Showtime, Frankie. Let's make them remember why they come here." My heels click against the worn wooden floor as I make my way through the narrow backstage corridor. The familiar sounds of the club filter through, glasses clinking, conversation humming like static, the soft jazz track playing between sets. My heart hammers against my ribs, each beat seeming to echo in my ears. This never gets easier. This moment before stepping into the light. But that's what makes it real. What makes it matter. The fear is proof that I care. That this isn't just another performance, but a piece of my soul I'm about to share with strangers. The stage manager gives me the signal. The curtain parts. And then I'm walking into that circle of light. The audience falling into shadow before me. Indistinct faces and gleaming tables creating a landscape of expectation. The microphone stands center stage like a loyal friend, waiting. I reach for it, my fingers wrapping around the cool metal stand, and scan the front row for Dante. His usual table sits empty. The flowers he always sends, white roses, my favorite, aren't there. A small tremor of unease runs through me, but I push it aside. He must be running late. Traffic. A last-minute work call. Something simple and explainable. The opening notes of my first song begin. The pianist's skilled fingers coaxing a melancholy melody from the keys. I close my eyes, draw breath deep into my diaphragm, and begin to sing. The first note comes out clear and strong, carrying all the longing I've carefully crafted into the lyrics. The audience fades away as I sink into the music, into the story I'm telling about loss and hope, and the space between them. This is where I belong, where everything else disappears, and only the song matters. I move through my set with increasing confidence, each song building on the last, taking the audience with me on the emotional journey I've mapped out. They're responding beautifully. I can feel their attention like a physical presence. Their silence between songs more precious than applause. These are the moments I live for, when the connection between performer and audience becomes something almost sacred. But part of my mind keeps drifting back to that empty table, to Dante's absence. He's never missed a show before, never failed to be there when I step off stage, ready with champagne and praise and that devastating smile. Finally, it's time for the new song. My heart rate kicks up as the pianist shifts into the opening chords. Minor key, haunting, building slowly like a confession whispered in darkness. This next song, I say into the microphone, my voice intimate and raw, is about the girl I used to be. About surviving when survival seems impossible. About finding light in the darkest places. I close my eyes and begin to sing. The lyrics flow from somewhere deep and honest. Each line a truth I've carried for years. I was invisible in crowded streets, a ghost among the living, singing to the void while the world rushed past. Nobody seeing, nobody giving. The emotion swells in my chest, threatening to crack my voice. But I hold it together, channeling everything into the performance. This is vulnerability as art. Pain transformed into beauty. Then you stopped in the rain, saw something others couldn't see, pulled me from the shadows, made me believe in possibility. I open my eyes as I reach the bridge, and that's when I see him. Not Dante. Someone else entirely. A man sits at the back corner table, partially hidden by shadow, but his presence dominates the room in a way I can't explain. He's perfectly still, absolutely focused on me, and even from this distance, I can feel the weight of his attention like a physical force. Dark hair, darker suit, and an aura of controlled power that makes every instinct in my body go on high alert. I've never seen him before, I'm certain of that. This is the kind of man you remember, the kind whose presence leaves an imprint. His table is set slightly apart from the others, and now that I've noticed him, I realize two other men flank it at neighboring tables, their postures alert despite their casual appearances. Security, or something like it. I force my attention back to the song, but I'm hyper-aware of his gaze, of the way he watches me without moving, without even seeming to blink. There's something predatory in that stillness, something that makes my skin prickle with an awareness that has nothing to do with stage fright. But shadows can't love light, and light can't love the dark. We're caught between two worlds, both leaving their mark. The song builds to its climax, my voice rising with controlled power, and I pour everything into it. All the fear and hope and desperate longing that's lived in my chest for as long as I can remember. The audience is utterly silent, suspended in the moment with me. When the final note fades, there's a breath of perfect quiet. Then applause erupts, genuine and warm, washing over me like a wave. I smile, bow slightly, and murmur my thanks into the microphone. But my eyes keep drifting back to that corner table. The man is still watching me. Not applauding, not moving, just watching. And there's something in his gaze that sends a shiver down my spine. Not fear exactly, but recognition. As if he sees something in me that I've been trying to hide. "Thank you," I say to the audience, my voice slightly breathless. "You've been wonderful. Enjoy the rest of your evening." I step away from the microphone and walk off stage on unsteady legs, the adrenaline that sustained me through the performance beginning to drain away. Backstage, the familiar chaos of the dressing room should ground me, but I feel oddly disconnected, my mind still on that man's unwavering stare. "Frankie, you were incredible." Angela pulls me into a hug, and I cling to her solid warmth for a moment. Seriously, I had goosebumps. That new song? Fucking beautiful. "Thanks." I try to match her enthusiasm, but something feels off, like the world has tilted slightly on its axis. My phone, which I'd left on the dressing table, lights up with a notification. My heart leaps. Maybe it's Dante, explaining why he couldn't make it. But when I pick it up, the message isn't from him. It's from an unknown number, and the words make my blood run cold. "Ask your boyfriend where he is right now." Actually, don't. Let me show you. Below the text is a photo, and at first my brain refuses to process what I'm seeing. It's grainy, clearly taken from a distance, but unmistakable. Dante, in what looks like a hotel room, his arms wrapped around a blonde woman I don't recognize. They're kissing, his hands tangled in her hair, and there's an intimacy in the image that speaks of more than a momentary mistake. The phone slips from my suddenly numb fingers, clattering against the dressing table. Angela is saying something, her voice seeming to come from very far away, but I can't make out the words over the rushing sound in my ears. "Frankie? Frankie, what's wrong?" Her hands grip my shoulders, turning me to face her, and I see my own shock reflected in her worried expression. I start, but I don't know how to finish that sentence. What do I need? Air? Answers? To unsee what I just saw? I pick up the phone with shaking hands and show Angela the image. Her face goes pale, then flushes with anger. "That fucking bastard. Frankie, I'm so sorry. How dare he? I need to leave." The words come out mechanical, distant. "I need to go." "Okay, but maybe you should sit down first. You look like you're going to pass out." She's right. The room is tilting around me, the edges of my vision going dark. I grip the table for support, trying to force air into my lungs. 3 months. 3 months of believing in something beautiful, of letting him into every corner of my life, of reshaping my dreams to include him. And all of it was built on lies. The dressing room door opens, and Marco appears, his expression apologetic. "Frankie, sorry to interrupt, but you have a visitor. Says he'd like to compliment you on your performance." "Tell them I'm not available," I manage, my voice hoarse. "Please, Marco, I can't see anyone right now." But Marco shifts uncomfortably, and there's something in his expression that makes my stomach drop. "It's Peter Romano," he says quietly, and the name seems to suck all the air from the room. "He's not really someone you say no to." Peter Romano. Even I, who've spent the last year largely isolated in my own small world of music and Dante, know that name. Everyone in New York knows that name, though most are smart enough not to say it out loud. Real estate magnate officially, but the rumors that swirl around him tell a different story, one of power that extends far beyond legitimate business, of connections to the families that run this city's shadows. The man from the corner table, the one who watched me with such unsettling intensity, of course. I really can't, I repeat, but there's no strength behind the words. My entire world has just shattered, and now one of the most dangerous men in New York wants to speak to me. The universe appears to be taking twisted pleasure in my destruction. I'll send him away, Angela says firmly, moving toward the door, but Marco catches her arm. Angela, don't. You know who he is. What he is. Marco's voice is tight with worry. Frankie, just talk to him for a minute. Be polite. Then you can leave. The practical part of my brain knows he's right. You don't refuse a man like Peter Romano, not unless you want problems you can't handle. But right now, with my heart breaking into pieces and my entire reality revealed as a lie, I barely have the strength to stand, let alone navigate a conversation with dangerous royalty. Fine. The word tastes like ash. Give me a minute to fix my face. Angela squeezes my hand. I'll be right outside the door. If you need anything, I know. Thank you. After they leave, I stare at my reflection in the mirror and barely recognize the woman looking back. My carefully applied makeup is smudged, mascara leaving dark tracks down my cheeks. My eyes are red-rimmed, my lips trembling. I look exactly like what I am, a woman whose world just imploded. I quickly repair the damage as best I can, wiping away the mascara tracks and reapplying lipstick with hands that won't quite steady. It's a mask. Nothing more. But at least it's something between me and the world. A knock at the door makes me jump. Come in, I call, my voice steadier than I feel. The door opens, and Peter Romano steps into my dressing room. Up close, he's even more overwhelming than he was from the stage. Tall, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders that fill out his obviously expensive suit with devastating effect. His dark hair is swept back from a face that's all sharp angles and hard lines, saved from cruelty only by the sensual curve of his mouth. But it's his eyes that capture me, storm gray, intelligent, and currently fixed on me with an intensity that makes it hard to breathe. He radiates power the way other men radiate cologne. It's simply part of him, inescapable and absolute. Everything about him screams danger, from the precise way he moves to the cold calculation I can see behind that penetrating gaze. This is a man accustomed to control, to having every situation bend to his will. Miss Moretti. His voice is deep, cultured, with the faintest trace of an accent that suggests old Italian money. Thank you for seeing me. I realize my timing is unfortunate. The understatement is almost laughable. Mr. Romano, I acknowledge, proud that my voice doesn't shake. Marco said you wanted to speak with me. He closes the door behind him, not aggressively, but with a finality that makes me acutely aware of being alone with him in this small space. Your performance tonight was exceptional, he says, moving further into the room with that same controlled grace. Particularly the new song. Very revealing. There's something in the way he says that last word that makes my skin prickle, as if he heard more in my performance than I intended to reveal, as if he sees more than I want him to see. Thank you. I keep my responses minimal, wary. I appreciate you taking the time to say so. His lips curve into something that might be a smile, though there's no warmth in it. I'm not here merely to compliment you, Miss Moretti. Though your talent certainly warrants praise, I have a proposition for you. Of course he does. Men like Peter Romano don't visit nightclub dressing rooms to chat about music. I'm listening. He produces a business card from his jacket pocket and places it on the dressing table between us. The card is black, with silver embossed text that reads simply, Peter Romano, and a phone number. Nothing else. No company name, no title. He doesn't need them. I own several establishments around the city, he says, his eyes never leaving mine. Restaurants, clubs, hotels, venues where someone with your talent could truly shine, where you could reach the audience you deserve. My hands twist together in my lap, a nervous habit I can't quite suppress. I appreciate the offer, but I'm happy here at Velvet Noir. Are you? The question is gentle, but there's something knowing in his tone that makes me uncomfortable. Happy performing for drunken businessmen and tourists? Happy limiting yourself to this? He glances around the cramped dressing room with its flickering lights and peeling wallpaper. Charming but ultimately restrictive venue? He's not wrong, and we both know it. Velvet Noir has been good to me, but it's not where I want to stay forever. I've dreamed of bigger stages, real recording contracts, tours that take me beyond New York's 5 boroughs. But Dante always said I needed to be patient, that success took time, that I shouldn't rush things. Dante. The thought of him sends a fresh wave of pain through my chest, and I have to look away from Peter Romano's too perceptive gaze. I'm sorry, I say, standing up on legs that feel like water. This has been a difficult evening, and I'm not in the right headspace to discuss business opportunities. Perhaps another time. He's not worth your tears. The words stop me mid-movement. I turn to stare at him, my heart suddenly pounding. Excuse me? Peter Romano's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in those gray eyes. Not quite sympathy, but acknowledgement. Dante Caruso. The man you've been waiting for all evening. The man who sent you that photograph. He pauses, letting that sink in. He's not worth a single tear from someone with your strength. My blood runs cold. How do you know about that? I make it my business to know things, Miss Moretti. He says it casually, as if surveillance and invasion of privacy are perfectly normal behaviors, especially when it concerns people who interest me. I don't. I start, but my voice fails. The room suddenly feels too small, the walls closing in. I need you to leave. Please. He doesn't move. Instead, he studies me with that unsettling intensity, and I have the irrational feeling that he's seeing every secret I've ever kept, every vulnerability I've tried to hide. You deserve better than Dante Caruso, he says finally. Better than this club, than singing for people who don't truly appreciate you, better than being invisible. The last word makes my breath catch, because it's exactly the word from my song, the song I poured my heart into just minutes ago. And he heard it. He understood it. Why do you care? The question comes out sharper than I intend, but I'm too raw for politeness. You don't know me. You don't know anything about my life. A slight smile curves his lips, and this time there's something almost predatory in it. Not yet, he says softly, but I intend to. Before I can respond, before I can process the implicit promise in those words, he moves toward the door. But he pauses with his hand on the handle, looking back at me over his shoulder. Keep the card, Miss Moretti. When you're ready to stop settling for less than you deserve, call that number. I'll be waiting. Then he's gone, leaving me alone with my shattered heart, my ruined dreams, and the uncomfortable feeling that my life just changed in ways I don't yet understand. I sink back onto the chair, my legs finally giving out, and stare at the black business card on my dressing table. The silver numbers seem to shimmer in the fluorescent light, like a doorway to something I'm not sure I'm ready for. Outside, I can hear Angela's worried voice, Marco's gruff responses, the distant sound of the next performer taking the stage. Normal sounds of a normal Friday night, except nothing is normal anymore. Everything I thought I knew, about Dante, about my future, about myself, has been revealed as illusion. And Peter Romano, dangerous and powerful and far too interested, has just made it clear that he sees me in a way that both terrifies and, God help me, intrigues me. I pick up my phone, my hand still shaking, and scroll to Dante's number. I should call him, demand answers, tell him I know what he's done. But what would be the point? The photo said everything that needed saying. Instead, I delete his number. Delete every text, every photo, every digital trace of our relationship. It's a small act of reclamation, but it's something. A first step toward... What? I don't know yet. All I know is that the girl who stepped onto that stage tonight, the one who believed in love and fairy tales and happily ever afters, no longer exists. She died somewhere between the final note of my song and the moment that photograph burned itself into my retinas. What rises from her ashes remains to be seen. But as I gather my things and prepare to leave this club, this night, this version of my life behind, I carefully slip Peter Romano's card into my purse. Just in case. Just in case. The walk back to my apartment feels longer than usual, each step heavy with the weight of everything that's shattered tonight. The November air bites through my thin coat. I'd left the club in such a daze that I forgot to call a car, forgot everything except the desperate need to escape. Now the cold provides a strange comfort, a physical sensation sharp enough to cut through the numbness spreading through my chest. Queens at midnight is a symphony of contrasts. Neon signs bleeding color into puddles left by earlier rain, the rumble of the subway beneath my feet, the distant wail of sirens painting the night with urgency. I pull my coat tighter and walk faster, my heels clicking an uneven rhythm against the pavement. Normally I'd be nervous walking alone at this hour, but tonight I barely register my surroundings. My mind is too full of Dante's betrayal, of Peter Romano's knowing gray eyes, of the uncomfortable feeling that I've stepped off the edge of something and am still falling. My phone buzzes insistently in my purse, probably Angela checking on me again. She'd wanted to come home with me, but I couldn't bear company right now, couldn't stand the thought of rehashing what happened while the wound was still so fresh. I need silence. I need to process. I need to figure out how I missed the signs that must have been there all along. 3 months of my life, given to a man who was lying the entire time. 3 months of believing I'd finally found something real, someone who saw me for who I truly was. The humiliation burns worse than the heartbreak, if I'm honest. How naive I must have seemed to him. How easy to manipulate. The struggling singer, so grateful for his attention, so eager to believe in the fantasy he was selling. My building comes into view. A 5-story walk-up that's seen better decades, its brick facade crumbling in places, fire escape zigzagging down the front like a scar. It's not much, but it's mine. Or rather, it will be for another 3 weeks, until the rent I can't quite afford comes due again. Dante had offered to help with that, had suggested I move in with him, but I'd refused. Maintaining my independence had seemed important then. Now I'm just grateful I have somewhere that isn't contaminated by his presence. I'm fumbling for my keys when I notice the car parked across the street. Sleek, black, expensive. Completely out of place in this neighborhood, where most vehicles are held together by rust and prayer. The windows are tinted, but I can see the faint glow of someone inside, and every instinct suddenly screams danger. I freeze, my keys clutched in my hand like a weapon, my heart rate spiking. The car door opens, and a man steps out, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark suit that probably costs more than my monthly rent. Even in the dim streetlight, I recognize him from the club, one of the men who'd been sitting near Peter Romano's table. Miss Moretti. His voice is professionally neutral, neither threatening nor friendly. Mr. Romano asked me to ensure you arrived home safely. The words should be reassuring, but instead they send ice through my veins. You followed me from the club? For your protection. He says it as if it's the most natural thing in the world, as if having a stranger tail me through the streets of Queens at midnight is perfectly reasonable behavior. I didn't ask for protection. My voice comes out stronger than I feel, anger cutting through the fear. And I certainly didn't give anyone permission to follow me home. The man's expression doesn't change. Mr. Romano was concerned. Given the evening's events, he thought it prudent to make sure you weren't approached by anyone who might wish to cause you distress. Anyone like Dante, he means. The implication is clear. Peter Romano knew I'd received that photograph, knew I'd be vulnerable, and took it upon himself to have me watched, protected, monitored. The lines between those concepts are blurring in ways that make my skin crawl. Tell Mr. Romano I appreciate his concern, but I can take care of myself. I turned toward my building's entrance, but his next words stopped me cold. Mr. Romano also wanted me to inform you that Dante Caruso will not be contacting you again. He's been made to understand that would be unwise. I spin back around, my exhaustion forgotten in a fresh surge of adrenaline. What does that mean? What did he do? For the first time, something that might be sympathy flickers across the man's face. Nothing that Mr. Caruso didn't deserve, Miss Moretti. Simply a conversation about respect and consequences. You won't be troubled by him again. The casual way he says it, as if Peter Romano can simply make people disappear from my life with a conversation, should terrify me. And it does. But there's also a treacherous part of me that feels something else. Relief? Gratitude? The idea that I won't have to face Dante, won't have to endure his excuses and lies, holds a certain dark appeal. I should go inside. I don't know what else to say, how to process any of this. Thank you for making sure I got home safely. He nods once, a slight inclination of his head that somehow conveys respect. Sleep well, Miss Moretti. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to call the number on Mr. Romano's card. Then he's back in the car, and I'm left standing on the cracked sidewalk, watching as it glides away into the night. My hands are shaking as I finally manage to unlock the building's front door, and I take the stairs to my third-floor apartment 2 at a time, suddenly desperate for the dubious safety of my own space. The apartment greets me with its familiar smells, the faint mustiness that never quite goes away no matter how much I clean, the lavender incense I burn to mask it, the lingering aroma of this morning's coffee. It's small, a studio really, with a kitchenette, bathroom, and one main room that serves as bedroom, living room, and practice space. But it's mine, and right now that matters more than anything. I drop my purse on the second-hand table by the door and collapse onto my bed, still in my performance dress and heels, too drained to even undress. The ceiling has a water stain shaped vaguely like a bird, and I've spent countless hours staring at it, working out melodies and lyrics in my head. Tonight, it just looks like damage. My phone buzzes again. Multiple missed calls from Angela, text from Marco asking if I'm okay, a message from the club's booking manager about next week's schedule. Nothing from Dante. Whatever Peter Romano did, whatever conversation his man referenced, it seems to have worked. I should feel victorious. Instead, I feel hollow. Dante's betrayal carved something out of me tonight, and I don't know what will grow in its place, or who I'll become without the future I'd been imagining for us. Sleep doesn't come easily. When it finally does, my dreams are fragmented and strange, Dante's face dissolving into smoke, Peter Romano's gray eyes watching me from shadows, the sensation of falling through darkness with no bottom in sight. I wake repeatedly, disoriented and gasping, until finally I give up around 5 a.m. and drag myself to the shower. The hot water helps, washing away the grime of the club, the tears I finally let fall, the lingering sensation of being watched. I stand under the spray until it runs cold, then force myself through the motions of normalcy. Coffee, toast I can barely choke down. The mindless scroll through social media that reveals nothing about Dante's life. His accounts are as carefully curated as everything else about him, showing only what he wants the world to see. I'm halfway through my coffee when someone knocks on my door. Not the buzzer downstairs. Someone is actually at my apartment door, which means they either live in the building or somehow got past the security door that barely functions. My heart rate spikes as I approach the peephole, half expecting to see Dante despite the assurances I was given last night. But it's not Dante. It's a woman I've never seen before. Late 50s maybe, with steel gray hair pulled into an elegant chignon and wearing a designer suit that screams money. She stands with the patience of someone accustomed to waiting, her posture perfect, her expression neutral. I open the door with the chain still attached. "Can I help you?" "Miss Moretti." Her voice is cultured, professional. "My name is Victoria Russo. I work for Peter Romano. May I come in? I promise, this will only take a moment of your time." Every instinct screams at me to refuse, to close the door and pretend last night never happened. But curiosity wins out over caution, as it so often does. I unhook the chain and step aside, allowing her to enter my cramped space. She glances around the apartment with the same neutral expression, taking in the second-hand furniture, the guitar propped in the corner, the modest chaos of my life. If she's judging, her face doesn't show it. "I apologize for the intrusion," she says, setting a slim leather portfolio on my table. "Mr. Romano wanted me to follow up on the conversation you had last night. He's offering you a position at Luminosa, one of his flagship restaurants. Friday and Saturday night performances, with the option to expand to other venues in his portfolio if things go well." She opens the portfolio, revealing a contract so official-looking it might as well be legal tender. My eyes scan the first page, and the numbers make my breath catch. The salary alone is triple what I'm making at Velvet Noir, and that's before the performance bonuses, the health insurance, the housing stipend. Housing stipend? I look up at her, confused. "Mr. Romano is aware that your current living situation is less than ideal," Victoria says smoothly. "The position comes with assistance in securing housing more suitable for someone of your talent. Nothing extravagant, but certainly an improvement over." She glances around again, the sentence trailing off diplomatically. The careful way she phrases it, "your current living situation is less than ideal," makes it clear that Peter Romano knows exactly how much I pay in rent, how close I am to not making next month's payment, how the landlord has been making noises about increasing rates. The level of information he's gathered about me in less than 24 hours is staggering and terrifying. "This is very generous," I say carefully, "but I already have a commitment to Velvet Noir. Marco has been good to me." "Mr. Romano has already spoken with Marco." Victoria's smile is professionally pleasant. "He's agreed to release you from your contract, effective immediately. He wants what's best for you, Miss Moretti, and he agrees that this opportunity is too valuable to pass up." Of course he does. Because Peter Romano asked, and apparently when Peter Romano asks for something, people give it to him. The speed at which my life is being reorganized around his desires should alarm me more than it does. But I'm tired, heartbroken, and staring at a contract that could solve every financial problem I've been drowning in for the past year. "I need time to think about this," I say, even though we both know I'm going to accept. What choice do I really have? Victoria nods, as if she expected this response. "Of course. Mr. Romano understands this is a significant decision. He's asked me to give you this as well." She produces an envelope from her briefcase. Thick, expensive paper, sealed with actual wax embossed with an ornate letter R. I take it with trembling fingers, breaking the seal to find a handwritten note in elegant script. Miss Moretti, I realize my methods may seem presumptuous, but please understand that I see in you a rare combination of talent and resilience that deserves to be cultivated, not buried in mediocrity. This offer comes with no strings attached. You maintain complete artistic control over your performances, your material, your career trajectory. My interest is simple. I want to hear you sing, and I want the world to hear you as well. The choice, as always, is yours, but I hope you'll choose wisely. PR. The note is signed with a flourish, and there's something about the confidence in those pen strokes that makes my pulse quicken. He's not asking. He's presenting what he sees as an inevitable outcome and graciously allowing me to pretend I have agency in the decision. I'll need to review the contract thoroughly, I tell Victoria, trying to inject some semblance of control into this situation. With a lawyer, probably. Naturally. She produces a business card, her own this time, with actual contact information. I've taken the liberty of highlighting the key provisions. There's no exclusivity clause beyond the performance schedule, no restrictions on your ability to pursue other opportunities. It's quite favorable, I assure you. She moves toward the door, then pauses. Miss Moretti, if I may offer some personal advice, Mr. Romano is not a man who extends opportunities lightly. When he shows interest in someone's success, that interest comes with considerable benefits, protection, resources, connections that can transform a career. I've worked for him for 15 years, and I've never seen him focus on anyone quite the way he's focused on you. The way she says it, focus, makes it sound less like professional interest and more like something else entirely. Something I'm not sure I'm ready to examine too closely. After she leaves, I sit at my table and read through the contract line by line. It's exactly as she described, generous to the point of absurdity, with none of the predatory clauses I've learned to expect from venue contracts. The salary, the benefits, the creative freedom, it's everything I've dreamed about, handed to me on a silver platter. By a man I met exactly once. A man who had me followed home. A man who had a conversation with my ex-boyfriend that resulted in Dante disappearing from my life overnight. A man whose reputation is built on power that operates outside the law's reach. I should be running. Every rational bone in my body knows this is dangerous, that accepting this offer means stepping into Peter Romano's orbit in a way that will change everything. But as I sit in my shabby apartment, still wearing yesterday's clothes, my career stagnant and my heart in pieces, I can't help but think about what he wrote in his note. The choice is yours, but I hope you'll choose wisely. Is it wise to accept an opportunity that solves all my problems? Or is it wise to maintain my independence, even if that independence means struggling alone? My phone rings, startling me out of my spiraling thoughts. It's Angela, and I answer on the second ring. Please tell me you're okay, she says without preamble. You disappeared last night, and then Marco said something about you getting a new gig. And I'm so confused, Frankie. What's going on? I take a deep breath and tell her everything. Peter Romano's visit, the man who followed me home, Victoria's appearance this morning, the contract spread out before me. As I speak, I can hear her reactions shifting from concern to shock, to something that sounds almost like fear. Frankie, she says when I finish, her voice tight with worry. This is Peter Romano we're talking about. You know what they say about him, right? About his family, his business, the people who cross him? I know. And I do. The Romano family has been a fixture in New York for generations, their legitimate businesses serving as a facade for operations that exist in the city's shadows. Everyone knows it, but no one can prove it, or no one who's tried has lived to testify about it. Then you know you can't just walk into his world and expect to walk back out unchanged. Angela's voice is pleading now. He's interested in you, Frankie. And when men like that get interested, it's not just about your singing voice. It's about possession, control. Maybe, I admit, because I'm not naive enough to deny the possibility. But Angela, I'm drowning here. The rent is due in 3 weeks and I don't have it. Dante's gone, my savings are depleted, and Velvet Noir barely pays enough to survive. This offer, it's a lifeline. Maybe the only one I'm going to get. There's a long silence on the other end. Finally, Angela sighs. Just promise me you'll be careful, that you won't let him get too close. Keep it professional, take the money, sing your heart out, but don't let him make you into something you're not. I promise, I say, though I'm not sure it's a promise I can keep. After we hang up, I sit for a long time, staring at the contract, at Peter Romano's note, at my reflection in the darkened screen of my phone. The girl looking back at me seems like a stranger, hollow-eyed, uncertain, poised on the edge of something that feels like either salvation or destruction. Finally, I pick up my phone and dial the number on Victoria Russo's card. She answers on the first ring, as if she's been waiting. Miss Moretti, she says warmly. Have you made a decision? I close my eyes. Think of Dante's betrayal, of my empty bank account, of Peter Romano's intense gray eyes, and the feeling that he sees straight through to my bones. I'll take the position, I hear myself say. When do I start? Excellent choice. Victoria's satisfaction is audible. Mr. Romano will be pleased. Shall we say Friday evening? That gives you time to prepare your set and familiarize yourself with the venue. I'll have a car pick you up at 6. A car isn't necessary. Mr. Romano insists. She interrupts gently. Consider it one of the benefits of the position. After we finalize the details and end the call, I sit in the sudden silence of my apartment and wonder what I've just agreed to. Outside, the city is waking up. Car horns blaring, people shouting, the constant thrum of New York doing what it does best. But in here, I feel suspended in amber, caught between the life I've been living and the one I'm about to step into. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Thank you for your trust, Miss Moretti. I look forward to hearing you sing again. PR. The message should feel invasive. He's obviously been monitoring my communications with Victoria. But instead, there's something almost reassuring about it. As if by accepting his offer, I've stepped under an umbrella of protection that extends beyond simple employment. I spend the rest of the weekend in a haze of preparation and second-guessing. I research Luminosa obsessively. It's one of the most exclusive Italian restaurants in Manhattan, known for its celebrity clientele, its impossible to get reservations, its understated elegance that whispers rather than shouts wealth. The reviews of its previous live music acts are glowing, and I feel the first flutter of genuine excitement beneath my anxiety. This is what I've wanted, isn't it? A real venue, a real audience, a real chance to be heard. But I also research Peter Romano, though the information available is frustratingly vague. Business profiles that list his legitimate holdings: real estate, restaurants, hotels, import-export companies. Society page photos showing him at charity galas and museum openings, always impeccably dressed, always alone or with different beautiful women who never appear in photos twice. Articles that mention his family's long history in New York, carefully worded to avoid any direct accusations but heavy with implication. What I don't find is anything approaching the truth. The real Peter Romano exists in the spaces between the words, in the things left unsaid, in the careful distance maintained between his public face and private operations. On Friday, I spend hours choosing what to wear, finally settling on a deep burgundy dress that's elegant without being pretentious, professional without being cold. I practice my set until my voice goes rough, then rest it carefully, drinking tea with honey and lemon. By the time 6 o'clock approaches, My nerves are strung so tight, I feel like I might vibrate out of my skin. The car arrives exactly on time. Another sleek black vehicle, but this time with a professional driver who introduces himself as Thomas and treats me with the kind of respect usually reserved for actual celebrities. The drive into Manhattan passes in a blur of city lights and mounting anxiety. Luminosa occupies the ground floor of a historic brownstone in Tribeca, its entrance marked only by a discreet brass plaque. Inside, the atmosphere is hushed elegance, exposed brick walls, soft lighting from vintage fixtures, tables set with immaculate white linens and fresh flowers. It's the kind of place where conversations happen in low voices, where deals are made over expertly prepared cuisine, where appearance matters as much as substance. Victoria meets me at the entrance, her smile warm and welcoming. "Miss Moretti, wonderful to see you. Let me show you to the performance space." She leads me through the main dining room to a smaller, more intimate area in the back, a semicircular space with a small stage, baby grand piano, and seating for perhaps 50 people. The acoustics are perfect, I can tell immediately. Every surface has been designed to enhance rather than absorb sound. "Your performances will be here, 9 to midnight, Friday and Saturday nights," Victoria explains. "The clientele is sophisticated, appreciative of genuine talent. You'll have complete autonomy over your set list, though Mr. Romano has requested that you include shadows and light at least once each evening." My stomach flutters at the mention of my new song, the one I'd performed the night everything fell apart. He wants to hear that one specifically? He found it particularly moving, Victoria says, and there's something in her expression. A knowing look that makes me wonder exactly what Peter Romano sees when he looks at me, what he hears when I sing. The evening passes in a blur of sound checks and final preparations. The pianist, a gentle man named Marcus with silver hair and nimble fingers, proves to be exceptional, adapting to my style with impressive ease. By the time 9 o'clock approaches, and the first guests begin to filter into the space, I feel as prepared as I'm going to be. I step onto the small stage in my burgundy dress, the lights dimming as attention focuses on me, and for a moment, I'm transported back to Velvet Noir, to that last performance before everything changed. But this audience is different, attentive in a way that speaks to real appreciation rather than casual entertainment. These are people who came specifically to hear music, to experience something beyond dinner. I scan the room as Marcus plays the opening notes of my first song, and there, at a corner table partially hidden by shadow, sits Peter Romano. He's dressed impeccably as always, in a charcoal suit that makes his gray eyes appear even more luminous in the low light. And he's watching me with that same intense focus I remember from Velvet Noir, as if nothing else in the room exists, as if I'm the only thing worth his attention. Our eyes meet, and he inclines his head slightly. Acknowledgement, approval, something else I can't quite name. Then I close my eyes and begin to sing, pouring everything into the performance, my heartbreak, my confusion, my tentative hope that maybe, just maybe, I'm stepping into something that will save rather than destroy me. The audience response is immediate and enthusiastic, but I'm only peripherally aware of it, because throughout my entire set, I can feel Peter Romano's gaze on me, constant and unwavering. And despite Angela's warnings, despite my own reservations, there's something intoxicating about being seen so completely by someone so powerful. When I finally perform Shadows and Light, the song that started all of this, I open my eyes and look directly at him. His expression hasn't changed, still that same controlled intensity. But something in the set of his shoulders, the way his fingers rest on his whiskey glass, suggests he's not as unaffected as he appears. But shadows can't love light, and light can't love the dark. We're caught between two worlds, both leaving their mark. As I sing the final lines, I wonder if he understands that I'm singing about him now, about this impossible situation I've stepped into, about the dangerous attraction building between us, unspoken, but undeniable. When the performance ends and the audience applauds, Peter Romano raises his glass to me in a silent toast. Then he stands and walks out of the room, leaving me on stage with my racing heart and the uncomfortable knowledge that everything just changed again. Victoria appears at my elbow as I step down from the stage. Exceptional, Miss Moretti. Truly exceptional. Mr. Romano was very pleased. Where did he go? The question escapes before I can stop it. Her smile is knowing. He has other business to attend to tonight, but he asked me to tell you that he'll be here tomorrow evening as well. He wants to hear you again. Of course he does, because Peter Romano gets what he wants. And apparently, what he wants is to hear me sing, to watch me, to pull me deeper into his orbit with each performance, each paycheck, each car that arrives precisely on time. As Thomas drives me home that night, I stare out the window at the city blurring past and wonder how long I can maintain the pretense that this is simply a job, simply an opportunity. How long before I have to acknowledge what's really happening, that Peter Romano isn't just interested in my voice, he's interested in me. And men like him don't take interest lightly. The question is, what will he do with that interest? And perhaps more importantly, what will I let him do? My phone buzzes with a text from the same unknown number as before. Beautiful performance tonight. You belong on that stage, not hidden in shabby clubs. This is only the beginning. PR. I stare at the message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the reply button. Finally, I type back a simple response. Thank you for the opportunity. His reply comes almost instantly. The pleasure is entirely mine, Francesca. Sleep well. The use of my full name, the intimacy implied by it, sends a shiver through me. And as I climb the stairs to my apartment, knowing it will only be home for a little while longer, that the housing stipend will move me somewhere nicer, somewhere closer to his world, I can't shake the feeling that I've just sold my soul. The only question is, what did I get in return? And will it be worth the price? The apartment Victoria shows me 3 weeks later is everything my current place isn't. Spacious, modern, flooded with natural light from floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking a tree-lined street in the West Village. Hardwood floors gleam beneath my feet as I walk through rooms that seem impossibly large after years of cramped studio living. There's an actual bedroom with a door that closes, a kitchen with appliances that look like they belong in a magazine spread, a bathroom with a clawfoot tub I can already imagine sinking into after long performance nights. The lease is in your name, Victoria explains, her heels clicking softly against the wood as she gestures around the living room. Mr. Romano has covered the first 6 months as part of your employment package. After that, the housing stipend should more than cover the rent, assuming you wish to stay. It's beautiful, I say, and mean it. The space feels like something from a dream, the kind of apartment I used to walk past and imagine living in someday, when my career took off, when I finally made it. But it seems like too much. I don't need something this expensive, Mr. Romano insists. Victoria's tone is gentle but firm, the same way she says everything that relates to what Peter Romano wants. He believes your living situation should reflect your value as an artist. And frankly, Miss Moretti, this neighborhood is safer. The building has excellent security, and you'll be much closer to Luminosa for your performances. She's right, of course. My current place in Queens requires an hour-long commute, and the building's idea of security is a front door that sometimes locks. But accepting this apartment feels like crossing another line, taking another step deeper into Peter Romano's carefully constructed web. Still, as I stand in the sunlight pouring through those magnificent windows, imagining my guitar in the corner, my books on those built-in shelves, my life finally resembling something stable and successful, I can't bring myself to refuse. When can I move in? I ask, and Victoria's smile tells me she knew I'd say yes all along. 2 days later, I'm settled into my new home with the help of movers Peter Romano arranged, because of course he did. My meager possessions look almost comically sparse in all this space. But there's something liberating about the emptiness. A blank canvas. A chance to start fresh. That evening, I have my regular Friday performance at Luminosa, and I arrive early to soak in the atmosphere before the crowd appears. Marcus is already at the piano, running through warm-up scales, and he greets me with his usual gentle smile. "How's the new place?" he asks, and I realize Victoria must have mentioned it to the staff. Nothing stays private in Peter Romano's world, a fact I'm learning to accept with varying degrees of comfort. "Like a dream," I admit, setting down my bag. "I keep waiting to wake up and find myself back in Queens," Marcus chuckles, his fingers dancing across the keys in a lazy jazz progression. "Get used to it, Francesca. When Mr. Romano takes an interest in someone's success, he doesn't do anything halfway. I've seen him transform careers with less effort than most people put into ordering lunch. There's something in the way he says it, takes an interest, that echoes Victoria's phrasing from weeks ago. Everyone seems to recognize something I'm still trying to pretend doesn't exist. Has he always been this?" I search for the right word. "Involved with the performers here?" Marcus's hand's still on the keys, and he gives me a long, assessing look. "No," he says finally. "In the 5 years I've worked here, I've never seen him take a personal interest in any of the musicians. He appreciates good music, certainly. But with you, it's different. He's here every Friday and Saturday night, always at that same corner table, always watching you like you're the only person in the room." My stomach does a complicated flip at this confirmation of what I've been noticing but trying to ignore. Peter Romano has been present at every single one of my performances over the past 3 weeks, always in that shadowed corner, always alone, always watching with an intensity that makes my skin prickle with awareness. "Maybe he just really likes my singing," I say weakly, and Marcus laughs outright. "Oh, honey, if you believe that's all it is, you're far more naive than you seem." He returns to his warm-up, but adds over his shoulder, "Just be careful, okay? Mr. Romano is a good employer, but he's also a complicated man with complicated connections. Don't let yourself get in over your head." It's too late for that warning, I think, as I head to the small dressing room to prepare for tonight's performance. I'm already in over my head, already drowning in the luxury and opportunity Peter Romano has showered on me, already addicted to the way his gaze makes me feel, seen, valued, desired in a way that both terrifies and thrills me. The performance that night is one of my best. The audience is particularly responsive, the acoustics are perfect, and I'm riding a wave of confidence from my new apartment, my new life, the feeling that things are finally falling into place. When I sing Shadows and Light, the song Peter Romano always requests, I let my eyes find him in his corner, let myself acknowledge the electric current that runs between us whenever our gazes meet. He's different tonight somehow, his usual controlled expression fractured by something raw. His fingers grip his whiskey glass with white-knuckled intensity, and even from the stage, I can see the muscle working in his jaw. It's as if my song has gotten under his skin, past the carefully maintained defenses he shows the world. When I finish and step off the stage, Victoria is waiting with her usual efficient smile. "Wonderful as always, Miss Moretti. Mr. Romano has asked if you would join him for a drink after your set." My heart stutters. In all the weeks I've been performing here, he's never requested my company beyond those silent exchanges of eye contact across the room. He's maintained a careful distance, professional and appropriate, giving me space to settle into my new position. But tonight, apparently, that distance is closing. I don't know if that's appropriate. I hedge, even as every nerve in my body screams, "Yes, yes, go to him." "He simply wants to discuss your performance schedule for next month," Victoria says smoothly. "There may be opportunities to expand to his other venues, as mentioned in your contract. It would be wise to hear him out. Business, then, except I can feel in my bones that whatever Peter Romano wants to discuss has very little to do with scheduling and everything to do with the tension that's been building between us since that first night at Velvet Noir. "All right," I hear myself say. "Just give me a moment to change." In the dressing room, I stare at my reflection and wonder what I'm walking into. My performance dress, a deep blue number that hugs my curves, suddenly feels too revealing, but I don't have anything else to change into. I touch up my lipstick with shaking hands, take several deep breaths, and try to convince myself this is just a meeting, just business. The lies we tell ourselves. When I emerge, Victoria guides me through the now empty restaurant. It's past midnight, and the last diners have departed, to a private room I didn't even know existed. She knocks once, softly, and Peter Romano's deep voice calls, "Come in." The room is intimate, designed for private meetings or romantic dinners. Exposed brick walls, soft lighting from wall sconces, a table set for two with wine already breathing in a crystal decanter. And there, standing by the window overlooking the street below, is Peter Romano. He's removed his suit jacket, and his white shirt is open at the collar, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing corded forearms dusted with dark hair. It's the most casual I've ever seen him, and somehow that makes him even more devastating. There's something almost dangerous about this relaxed version of him, as if he's dropped some of his careful control. "Francesca." He turns as I enter, and the way he says my name, full of possession and something darker, makes heat pool low in my stomach. "Thank you for joining me. Please, sit." Victoria disappears, closing the door behind her with a soft click that sounds far too final. I move to one of the chairs, hyper-aware of Peter's gaze tracking my every movement as I sit. He remains standing for a moment, just watching me with those storm-gray eyes that seem to see everything I'm trying to hide. "Wine?" He moves to the table, pouring deep red liquid into 2 glasses with practiced ease. "Thank you." My voice comes out steadier than I feel. I accept the glass, careful not to let our fingers touch, though I can feel the electricity crackling in the air between us. He settles into the chair across from me, and for a long moment, we simply look at each other. The silence stretches, heavy with unspoken things, until finally he speaks. "You've been with us for 3 weeks now. I wanted to check in, see how you're settling into the position." It's a perfectly reasonable thing to say, perfectly professional. Except there's nothing professional about the heat in his gaze, the way his eyes linger on my lips before returning to meet mine. "Everything has been wonderful," I say carefully. "The venue is perfect, the audiences are appreciative, Marcus is an excellent accompanist. And the apartment, thank you, it's far more than I expected or needed." "You deserve far more than you've been willing to accept," he counters, taking a sip of his wine. "You've been undervalued for too long, Francesca, hidden in venues that couldn't appreciate what they had, wasting your talent on people who couldn't see your true worth." There's an edge to his words when he mentions being undervalued, and I wonder if he's thinking about Dante, about the man who had me and threw me away for someone else. Peter hasn't mentioned that night at Velvet Noir, hasn't acknowledged that he knows about my heartbreak, but the knowledge sits between us like a third presence. "You barely know me," I point out, trying to inject some rationality into this increasingly charged atmosphere. "How can you be so certain of my worth?" His smile is slow and predatory. "I make it my business to know things, remember? I know you were raised by your grandmother after your parents died in a car accident when you were 8. I know you put yourself through a year of music school before the money ran out. I know you've been surviving on tips and struggling to make rent for the past 3 years while chasing a dream most people would have abandoned. I know you're stronger than you think, more talented than you believe, and far too willing to settle for less than you deserve." Each revelation lands like a physical blow. The depth of his knowledge about my life should terrify me. But instead, There's something almost intoxicating about being so thoroughly seen. Dante claimed to love me, but never bothered to learn these details. Peter Romano, who has no reason to care, knows everything. That's an invasion of privacy, I manage weakly. It's due diligence. He leans forward slightly, his gaze intense. I don't invest in people I don't understand, Francesca. And make no mistake, you are an investment. One I intend to see succeed. An investment. The word tastes bitter on my tongue. Is that what I am to you? Something flickers in his eyes. Surprise, perhaps, that I'm challenging him. Then, that predatory smile returns. Among other things. The admission hangs in the air between us, heavy with implication. I should leave, should thank him for the wine and the conversation, and retreat to the safety of my new apartment. But I'm rooted to my chair, caught in his gravitational pull, unable to look away from those gray eyes that promise both danger and salvation. What other things? The question escapes before I can stop it, reckless and revealing. Peter sets down his wine glass with careful precision, then stands. For a heart-stopping moment, I think he's going to come to me, to close the distance between us and make real the tension that's been building for weeks. But instead, he walks to the window, his back to me, hands in his pockets. I saw you that night at Velvet Noir, he says, his voice low and controlled. Before the performance, you were cleaning tables, your shoulders tight with exhaustion, your hands raw from chemicals. And I thought, what a waste. What a fucking waste for someone with your talent to be invisible, overlooked, undervalued. He turns to face me, and the intensity in his expression steals my breath. Then I watched you perform, watched you pour your heart into that song about being invisible, about surviving in the shadows. And I saw someone who understood pain, who had transmuted suffering into art. Someone worth saving. I don't need saving, I say, but my voice lacks conviction. No. He moves toward me now, each step deliberate, and my pulse skyrockets. You need opportunity, resources, protection, things I can provide. He stops inches from my chair, looking down at me with an expression that's equal parts hunger and restraint. The question is, are you willing to accept them? I should say no, should recognize this for what it is. A powerful man offering a Faustian bargain, wrapping possession in the language of opportunity. But as I look up at him, at the barely controlled desire in his eyes, at the promise of everything I've ever wanted dangling just within reach, I find myself asking instead, what would you want in return? His hand reaches out, and I hold my breath as his fingers trace the line of my jaw with devastating gentleness. The touch sends electricity racing through my nervous system, and I have to fight not to lean into his palm. Honestly, his voice is rough now, stripped of its usual control. Everything, your voice, your time, your presence, the privilege of hearing you sing, the right to ensure no one undervalues you again, the satisfaction of watching you become what you were always meant to be. That sounds like ownership, I whisper, even as I'm tilting my face into his touch, betraying my own conflicted desires. It's protection. His thumb brushes across my lower lip, and I can't suppress the shiver that runs through me. The world is dangerous, Francesca, especially for women with talent and beauty, and not enough power to defend themselves. I can give you that power. I can make sure what happened with Dante Caruso never happens again. The mention of Dante's name is like cold water, breaking the spell. I pull back from his touch, standing abruptly, needing distance to think clearly. Did you have something to do with that? With Dante breaking up with me? Peter's expression doesn't change, but something dangerous flashes in his eyes. I had something to do with ensuring he understood the consequences of disrespecting you. The photograph you received, I had it sent. You deserved to know the truth, and he deserved to lose you. The casual admission of manipulation should horrify me, but instead, I feel a twisted sense of validation. Peter Romano saw Dante's betrayal and chose to expose it. Chose to save me from wasting more time on a man who didn't deserve me. It's fucked up. It's controlling, and some dark part of me is grateful for it. You had no right, I say, but there's no heat behind the words. I had every right. He moves closer again, backing me against the wall with his presence alone. The moment I saw you, you became mine to protect, mine to elevate, mine to ensure never suffers at the hands of unworthy men again. I'm not yours, I protest, even as my body responds to his proximity, my breath coming faster, my skin heating under his gaze. His hand comes up to rest against the wall beside my head, caging me in without touching me. Aren't you? His voice is a low rumble that I feel in my bones. You're living in the apartment I provided, performing at the venue I own, wearing the success I gave you. You think of me when you sing. I can see it in your eyes when you perform. The way you search for me in the shadows. The way your voice changes when our gazes meet. If you're not mine yet, you will be. It's only a matter of time. The certainty in his words should terrify me. But God help me. There's something intoxicating about being wanted this intensely, by a man this powerful. About being seen as precious rather than disposable. About mattering enough to inspire this level of focus and determination. This is insane, I breathe, my resistance crumbling. You barely know me. This has been 3 weeks. I've known you long enough to recognize what I want. His free hand comes up to cup my face. His touch surprisingly gentle despite the predatory intent in his eyes. I've watched you pour your soul into your music night after night. I've seen how you interact with the staff. Kind, gracious, never letting success change your fundamental decency. I've studied every detail of your life, Francesca, and everything I've learned has only made me more certain that you belong with me. Belong. The word catches in my throat. You keep using words like that. Ownership, possession, belonging. I'm not an object to be acquired. No. His thumb strokes across my cheekbone, and I can't help but lean into the touch. You're infinitely more valuable than any object. You're a woman of extraordinary talent and resilience, who deserves to be cherished, protected, and given every opportunity to shine. I want to be the man who does those things for you. Why? The question comes out as barely more than a whisper. Why me? You could have anyone. You're wealthy, powerful, connected. Why fixate on a struggling singer you saw once at a shabby club? His eyes search mine, and for a moment, his careful control slips, revealing something raw and honest beneath. Because when you sang that night, you weren't performing. You were confessing. You were bleeding truth into every note, and it fucking wrecked me. I've built my life on control, on maintaining distance, on never letting anyone close enough to matter. And then I heard you sing about being invisible, and I realized I'd been invisible too, just in a different way. Hidden behind power and reputation, never letting anyone see the man beneath the armor. The vulnerability in his admission steals my breath. This is the real Peter Romano, I realize. Not the controlled crime lord or the sophisticated businessman, but a man who heard something in my voice that resonated with his own hidden pain. I don't know how to do this, I admit, my voice shaking. How to accept everything you're offering without losing myself in the process. How to be grateful without being owned. How to trust that this is real and not just another beautiful lie. So don't trust it yet. His forehead drops to rest against mine, his breath warm against my lips. Let me prove it to you. Let me show you, night after night, performance after performance, that I see you for exactly who you are and want you anyway. That I'm not Dante Caruso or any other man who failed to recognize your worth. That I'm offering something real, even if it's complicated and dangerous and completely fucking insane. I close my eyes, overwhelmed by his proximity, his scent, expensive cologne and whiskey, and something uniquely him. His words that promise both everything and nothing. I should push him away, should run while I still can, should protect what's left of my battered heart. But I don't, because despite every rational objection, despite Angela's warnings and Marcus's concern, despite my own fear of getting in too deep, I want this. Want him. Want the intensity of his focus, the security of his protection, the intoxication of being desired this completely. If I do this, I say, opening my eyes to meet his intense gaze. If I let you, whatever this is, I need you to promise me something. Anything. The word is immediate, absolute. Don't lie to me. Not about your business. Not about your intentions. Not about what you want from me. I can't survive another beautiful lie, Peter. If this is going to be real, it has to be honest, even when the truth is ugly. Something shifts in his expression. Respect, maybe, or relief that I'm not naive enough to pretend his world is anything but dark. I promise you honesty, Francesca. Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it reveals things about me you might not want to know. I won't lie to you. Then tell me honestly, what do you want from me? Right now, in this moment? His eyes darken with undisguised hunger. I want to kiss you until you forget every man who came before me. I want to hear my name on your lips the way I hear it in my head when you sing. I want to claim you in every way that matters, marking you as mine so thoroughly that no one will ever question who you belong to. The raw honesty of his desire sends heat flooding through me, pooling low in my belly. That's not ownership. It's truth. His hand slides from my face to my neck, his thumb resting against my racing pulse. I want to own you, Francesca. Your heart, your body, your future. I want you to be mine in every sense of the word, and I want to be yours just as completely. That's the truth you asked for. Can you handle it? I should say no. Should tell him this is too intense, too fast, too dangerous. But as I look into his eyes and see the naked want there, matched by the want I feel surging through my own veins, I find myself whispering, yes. The word is barely out of my mouth before his lips claim mine. The kiss is nothing like I expected, not gentle or tentative, but consuming, possessive, a claiming as thorough as any he could have stated in words. His hand tightens on my neck, holding me exactly where he wants me, while his other arm wraps around my waist, pulling me flush against his body. I melt into him, surrendering to the kiss with a desperation that should embarrass me but doesn't. My hands fist in his shirt, pulling him closer, needing more of this heat, this intensity, this feeling of being wanted so completely it erases everything else. When we finally break apart, both breathing hard, his eyes are molten silver. Mine, he says against my lips. Not a question, but a statement of fact. And God help me, I don't argue. Because standing in his arms, still tasting him on my lips, feeling more alive than I have in months, maybe years, I can't deny what's becoming increasingly clear. I am his, and he's probably going to destroy me. But right now, wrapped in his embrace, the risk feels worth it. 3 months pass in a blur of performances, stolen moments, and gradual integration into Peter Romano's world. He courts me with the same intensity he brings to everything. Strategic, thorough, overwhelming. Dinners at restaurants so exclusive they don't have names, just addresses whispered among those who matter. Tickets to sold-out performances where we watch from private boxes, his hand possessive on my thigh. Late-night conversations in his penthouse that stretch until dawn, where he reveals pieces of himself with careful deliberation, letting me see past the armor to the complicated man beneath. The sex, when it finally happens 2 weeks after that first kiss, is a revelation. Peter makes love like he does everything else, with complete focus, total control, and an intensity that leaves me shattered and remade. He learns my body like studying a map to treasure, discovering every place that makes me gasp, memorizing the exact touch that makes me arch into his hands. And afterward, when I'm boneless and trembling, he holds me with a gentleness that contradicts everything I know about his reputation. "You're mine now," he murmurs into my hair one night as we lie tangled in his sheets, the city glittering beyond his floor-to-ceiling windows. Completely, irrevocably mine. And I don't argue, because it's true. Somewhere between that first performance at Luminosa and this moment, I've become his. Not just physically, but in every way that matters. My heart, my thoughts, my future, all oriented around Peter Romano. Angela's warnings have faded to background noise. Marcus's concerned looks I ignore. Even my own lingering doubts get drowned out by the intoxication of being loved, or at least desired, by someone like Peter. He makes me feel safe, valued, protected in ways I've never experienced before. But safety in Peter Romano's world is an illusion, as I'm about to learn. It starts with small things I don't immediately recognize as warnings. Peter becomes more possessive, his questions about my day more detailed, his need to know my exact whereabouts more insistent. A bodyguard, a silent, efficient man named Vincent, appears whenever I leave my apartment, claiming Peter wants to ensure my safety. The other performers at Luminosa start treating me differently, with a deference that has nothing to do with my talent and everything to do with who I belong to. Then comes the night that changes everything. I'm performing at Luminosa as usual, working through my Friday night set, when I notice Peter isn't at his customary corner table. It's the first time in months he's missed a performance without warning, and unease prickles at the base of my spine. Vincent is still present, standing near the entrance with his usual vigilant stance, so I know nothing catastrophic has happened. But Peter's absence feels wrong, like a discordant note in a familiar song. I finish my set to enthusiastic applause, but my mind is elsewhere as I head to the dressing room. I'm checking my phone, no messages from Peter, when Victoria appears, her usual composed expression tight with something that looks like concern. "Miss Moretti, Mr. Romano has asked that you come to his office immediately." His office? I've never been to Peter's actual business office, only his penthouse and various restaurants. The separation between his professional life and our relationship has been deliberate, a line he's been careful not to cross, until now. "It's important," Victoria says, and there's genuine worry in her eyes now. The car is waiting. 20 minutes later, I'm in a building in Midtown I've never entered before, riding an elevator to the penthouse level where Peter apparently conducts his real business. The doors open directly into a reception area that's all cold marble and steel, intimidating in its corporate austerity. A woman at the desk looks up, recognition flashing in her eyes as she picks up a phone and murmurs something I can't hear. Moments later, a door opens, and a man emerges. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the same watchful quality as Vincent. "Miss Moretti, this way, please." He leads me through a corridor lined with offices where people work despite the late hour, their eyes following me with undisguised curiosity. At the end of the hall is a set of double doors, and through them I hear voices. Peter's, along with at least 2 others, all speaking rapid Italian in tones that suggest conflict. My escort knocks once, and the conversation inside ceases abruptly. "Come!" Peter's voice calls, and we enter. The office is massive, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a spectacular view of Manhattan, Modern furniture that screams power and money. Artwork on the walls that I recognize as genuine and probably worth more than most people's homes. But I barely register any of it, because my attention is fixed on Peter. He stands behind his desk, and for the first time since I've known him, his careful control is fractured. His jacket is discarded, his shirt sleeves rolled up, his hair disheveled as if he's been running his hands through it. There's a bruise forming along his jaw, and when my eyes widen in alarm, he gives me a tight smile. I'm fine, Kara. Just a minor disagreement that got physical. Nothing to worry about. But I am worried, because seated across from him are two men I've never seen before, both radiating the same controlled danger that emanates from Peter. And standing to the side, arms crossed and expression grim, is a man I recognize from the society pages, Dominic Santoro, head of one of New York's other prominent families. "Gentlemen," Peter says, his voice dropping back into that controlled tone. I know means he's at his most dangerous. "I believe we're finished here. My people will be in touch about the arrangements we discussed. It's a dismissal, clear and absolute." The two unfamiliar men stand, giving me assessing looks as they pass that make my skin crawl. Dominic Santoro lingers longer, his dark eyes moving between Peter and me with something like understanding. "She's beautiful," he says to Peter, ignoring me completely. "I see why you've been so distracted lately. Just be careful, amico. Beautiful women make men careless, and carelessness in our business is fatal." Peter's expression goes arctic. "I appreciate your concern, Dominic, but my personal life is none of your fucking business." Dominic raises his hands in mock surrender, but his smile doesn't reach his eyes. "Noted. Just remember what we discussed. The shipment arrives Tuesday. Don't let anything or anyone compromise that timeline." After they leave, silence fills the office like water. Peter moves to the bar cart and pours himself a generous measure of whiskey, downing half of it before turning to face me. "I'm sorry you had to see that," he says, and he sounds tired in a way I've never heard before. "I didn't want you exposed to this part of my life." "What part?" My voice comes out steadier than I feel. "The part where men with dead eyes threaten you in your office? The part where someone hits you hard enough to leave bruises? Or the part where I'm discussed like I'm a weakness to be exploited?" He sighs, setting down the glass to cross to where I stand frozen by the door. His hands come up to cup my face, and I see genuine regret in his eyes. "All of it. None of this should touch you, Francesca. I've been careful to keep you separate, protected. Protected from what?" I pull back from his touch, suddenly angry. "From the truth about what you really do? From understanding exactly who you are? You promised me honesty, Peter. You said you wouldn't lie to me. But keeping me in the dark is just another form of lying." His jaw tightens, but he nods. "You're right. I have been keeping things from you, trying to preserve your innocence, keep you from being contaminated by the uglier aspects of my business. But you deserve to know what you've gotten involved with, what being with me really means. So tell me." I cross my arms, suddenly cold despite the office's warmth. "Tell me the truth. All of it." Peter moves to the windows, staring out at the city spread below like a kingdom he controls. When he speaks, his voice is careful, measured, each word chosen with precision. "My family has been in New York for 4 generations. We came from Sicily with nothing and built an empire through means both legal and less so. My grandfather ran operations for one of the 5 families. Protection, gambling, other enterprises the law frowns upon. My father legitimized much of our business, but never completely. He understood that true power requires multiple streams, some that flow in the light, others that run in shadow." He turns to face me, and there's no apology in his expression, only brutal honesty, When he died 5 years ago, I inherited everything. The restaurants, the real estate holdings, the import-export businesses, all legitimate on paper. But also the other operations, the ones that connect me to families like the Santoros, the Benedettos, the Russos, the ones that require meetings like tonight, where we negotiate territory and terms, where violence is always an option on the table. My heart is pounding, but I force myself to remain calm, to process what he's telling me. What do you actually do, Peter? Specifically. His smile is bitter. You want the catalog of sins? I provide services that people want but can't obtain legally. I protect businesses that pay for that protection. I have interests in ventures that don't appear on any tax return. I ensure that problems disappear, whether those problems are people or situations or complications that threaten what's mine. You hurt people. It's not a question. When necessary. His eyes never leave mine, unflinching. I don't pretend to be a good man, Francesca. I've done things that would horrify you, made decisions that prioritize power over morality. But I've also protected hundreds of people, provided for families, built legitimate businesses that employ thousands. The world isn't black and white. It's shades of gray. And I've made peace with the shade I occupy. I should be horrified, should be running for the door, calling the police, ending this relationship before I become complicit in whatever darkness he's describing. But as I look at him, at the man who's held me through nightmares, who's championed my career, who's treated me with more genuine care than anyone else in my life, I can't reconcile this confession with the Peter I know. Why are you telling me this now? I ask. What's changed? He moves toward me, his expression grave. Because after tonight, certain people know you exist, know you matter to me. And that makes you a target, Francesca. Not just for my enemies, but for those who might try to use you as leverage, as a way to influence my decisions or compromise my position. The words land like physical blows. You're saying I'm in danger because of you. I'm saying I need you to understand the reality of being with me, the precautions we'll need to take, the security that will become part of your daily life, the fact that you can't just walk away anymore, because walking away won't make you safe. It'll make you vulnerable. So I'm trapped. The realization is crushing. You've trapped me in your world, and now you're telling me there's no escape. I'm offering you a choice, he corrects, moving close enough that I can see the desperation in his eyes. Stay with me, accept my protection and everything that comes with it, and I'll move heaven and earth to keep you safe. Or leave, and I'll ensure you're protected from a distance, though it will be more difficult without my direct involvement. But either way, you need to understand what's at stake, who I really am, what loving me costs. Loving. He's never used that word before, never explicitly stated that what's between us is love rather than desire or possession or obsessive interest. The admission, casual as it is, makes my breath catch. You love me? The question comes out small, vulnerable. His hands frame my face, his touch achingly gentle despite everything he's just revealed. From the moment I heard you sing about being invisible, I've been unable to think about anything else. You've gotten under my skin, into my thoughts, past defenses I've maintained for decades. So yes, Francesca, I love you. Completely, possessively, probably unhealthily. And that's why I need you to make this choice with full knowledge of what it means. Tears burn behind my eyes. I don't know how to reconcile the man who loves me with the man who just described doing terrible things. I don't know how to be with someone who operates in that kind of darkness without losing myself in it. You don't have to operate in it, Peter says urgently, his thumbs brushing away tears I didn't realize had fallen. You stay in the light, Kara. You sing. You create beauty. You remain exactly who you are. I'll handle the shadows. That's always been the plan. to keep you separate, clean, untouched by the uglier aspects of what I do. But I'm not separate anymore, am I? I gesture around the office, toward the door where those dangerous men departed. They know about me. They see me as a weakness. How is that staying separate? His expression darkens. They see you as leverage because they're stupid enough to think I'd let anyone use you that way. But they'll learn. Anyone who tries to touch you, to threaten you, to use you against me, they'll discover exactly how ruthless I can be when something I love is threatened. The cold certainty in his voice should terrify me, but instead, it sends an unwelcome thrill through my body. There's something primal about being claimed so completely, about knowing someone would destroy the world to keep you safe. It's fucked up. It's dangerous. And God help me. Part of me wants it. I need time, I say, pulling away from his touch because I can't think clearly when he's this close. To process all of this, to figure out what I'm willing to accept. Pain flashes across his features, but he nods. Take whatever time you need. But Francesca? His voice stops me as I turn toward the door. Vincent stays with you. Non-negotiable. Until we're certain there's no immediate threat, you don't go anywhere without security. I want to argue, to reclaim some semblance of independence, but the fear in his eyes, genuine fear for my safety, makes me swallow the protest. Fine. Vincent can stay. The car ride back to my apartment is silent. Vincent's presence in the driver's seat a constant reminder of how completely my life has changed. 3 months ago, I was struggling to pay rent and singing in a shabby club. Now I'm the lover of a crime lord, a target for his enemies, trapped in a world I barely understand. My apartment, the beautiful space Peter provided, suddenly feels like another cage. I move through it restlessly, unable to settle, my mind churning with everything he revealed. The man I've fallen in love with isn't just morally ambiguous or operating in legal gray areas. He's actually genuinely involved in organized crime, violence, illegal operations that could get him killed or imprisoned. And I love him anyway. That's the most terrifying realization of all. My phone rings around 2 a.m. Angela, finally returning my earlier calls. I answer on the first ring, desperate for her grounding presence. Frankie, I'm sorry I didn't call back sooner. Night shift was insane and... Wait, why are you crying? What happened? I tell her everything, the words tumbling out between sobs. Peter's confession, the meeting with those dangerous men, the realization that I'm trapped in a world I never asked to enter. Angela listens without interrupting, and when I finally fall silent, her response is exactly what I need to hear. Do you love him? The question is so simple, so direct, that it cuts through all my confusion. Yes, I admit. God help me, yes. Even knowing what he is, what he does, I love him. Then you need to decide if that love is worth the cost, Angela says gently. Because Frankie, this isn't going to get easier. If anything, it'll get more complicated, more dangerous. Being with someone like Peter Romano means accepting darkness as part of your reality. Can you live with that? I don't know, I whisper. I thought I could keep one foot in my old life, maintain some separation. But he's right. That's not possible anymore. It's all or nothing. So what are you going to do? I stare out my window at the city below, thinking about Peter's touch, his devotion, the way he looks at me like I'm the only thing that matters in his complicated world. About the life he's given me. The career, the security, the feeling of being cherished and protected. And about the cost of all of it. I'm going to stay, I say finally, the decision crystallizing as I speak it aloud. I'm going to accept what he's offering, darkness and all, because losing him would hurt worse than anything his world could do to me. Angela sighs, but there's no judgment in it. Then promise me you'll be careful, that you won't lose yourself completely in his orbit, that you'll hold on to the Francesca who sang in subway stations because she had no choice, because that girl is stronger than any version he might try to create. I promise, I say, though I'm not sure it's a promise I can keep. After we hang up, I text Peter. I've made my decision. I'm staying. All in. His response comes immediately, as if he's been waiting by his phone. Thank you. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it. The next morning, I wake to find Vincent at my door with instructions from Peter. I'm to stay in the apartment until he can arrange enhanced security. No performances tonight, no venturing out unnecessarily. It chafes against my independence, but I remember the fear in Peter's eyes and comply without protest. He arrives at noon, looking exhausted but relieved, and pulls me into an embrace that feels like coming home. Thank you for trusting me, he murmurs into my hair. For choosing this, choosing us, even knowing what it means. I love you, I say. The word's easier now that the decision is made. Whatever that means in your world, however complicated it gets, I love you. His kiss is deep and desperate, tasting of relief and possession, and promises he'll move heaven and earth to keep. When we finally break apart, he takes my hand and leads me to the couch, his expression serious. We need to discuss practical matters. Security protocols, communication procedures, people you need to be able to identify and trust. Victoria will be your primary contact for anything related to safety. Vincent will be with you whenever I can't be, which unfortunately is more often than I'd like. I understand, I say, squeezing his hand. Whatever you need me to do to stay safe, I'll do it. His relief is palpable. There's something else. The apartment you're in now. It's nice, but it's not secure enough. I want you to move into my penthouse, with me, permanently. My heart stutters. Peter, that's a big step. Living together is exactly where we are, whether we acknowledge it officially or not. He interrupts gently. You're already mine, Francesca. You've already chosen to be part of my life. This just makes the reality match the truth. And more practically, my building has security measures this place lacks. I'll sleep better knowing you're protected. Part of me wants to argue, to maintain some last vestige of independence. But he's right. The decision to stay with him, to accept his world, already means accepting this level of integration. Living separately is just an illusion of distance that no longer serves any purpose. Okay, I agree. When? Today? Now. I'll have your things moved within the hour. His smile is triumphant, possessive. You should have been living with me from the start. I've been patient, giving you space to adjust, but that ends now. From this moment forward, you're exactly where you belong, with me. The speed with which my life transforms is dizzying. By evening, I'm installed in Peter's penthouse, a sprawling space that takes up the entire top floor of his building in Tribeca, with views of the Hudson River and security so sophisticated it probably rivals most government facilities. My belongings look small and out of place among his expensive furnishings, but he makes space for them with deliberate care, as if integrating my things into his space is an act of devotion. This is your home now, he says, showing me a walk-in closet he's had cleared for my use. Everything here is yours just as much as it's mine. I want you comfortable, settled, confident that this is permanent. That night, lying in his bed, our bed now, with his arm heavy across my waist and his breathing steady in sleep, I stare at the ceiling and marvel at how completely my life has changed in less than 6 months. From invisible subway singer to the lover of New York's most dangerous man. From struggling to pay rent to living in a penthouse most people only see in magazines. From heartbroken over Dante's betrayal to deeply, irrevocably in love with someone infinitely more complicated. I should be terrified. In many ways I am. But there's also a strange sense of rightness to all of this, as if every struggle, every heartbreak, every moment of being invisible was leading me here, to this man, to this dangerous, beautiful life. Peter stirs beside me, his arm tightening possessively even in sleep, and I realize with startling clarity that I wouldn't change any of it. Whatever comes next, whatever dangers or complications his world brings, I'll face them. Because the alternative is losing him, and that's no longer an option my heart can accept. I'm his now. Completely, irrevocably his. And he's mine. And somehow that knowledge is enough to let me finally sleep. Living with Peter Romano is an education in contrasts. By day, I witness the legitimate businessman, taking calls about real estate acquisitions, hosting meetings with lawyers and accountants, reviewing contracts for his restaurants and hotels. He moves through this world with easy confidence, his intelligence and strategic thinking evident in every decision. This is the Peter Romano the public sees. Sophisticated, successful, completely above board. But in the evenings after dinner when he retreats to his study, I catch glimpses of the other side. Men arriving through private entrances, conversations conducted entirely in Italian that stop when I pass by, phone calls that send his expression cold and calculating. He never explicitly includes me in this part of his life, but I'm learning to read the signs. The tension in his shoulders that means problems requiring his particular brand of solution. The dangerous calm in his voice that precedes violence I'll never witness, but know happens nonetheless. It's been 2 weeks since I moved into the penthouse, and I'm still adjusting to this new reality. To having staff who appear silently to clean, cook, and serve. To Vincent's constant shadow whenever I leave the building. To the knowledge that everything around me, the art, the furniture, the security that makes this place a fortress, is purchased with money from sources I'd rather not examine too closely. My performances at Luminosa continue, now with enhanced security that I try not to think about. Vincent drives me there and back, waiting in the shadows while I sing. Peter attends every show when business allows, his presence in that corner table a constant that grounds me. The audiences remain enthusiastic, and Victoria tells me my draw has increased. People come specifically to hear me now, not just for Luminosa's food and ambiance. "You're becoming famous," she says one evening as she reviews my schedule for the coming month. "We've had requests for you to perform at private events, corporate functions, even a wedding for one of the Benedetto family." The Benedettos. I recognize the name from that meeting in Peter's office. One of the other families, connected to his world in ways I still don't fully understand. Victoria nods, her expression carefully neutral. They're willing to pay exceptionally well. Mr. Romano would need to approve, of course, since it would be outside your regular performance schedule. When I mention it to Peter that evening, his reaction is immediate and unequivocal. Absolutely not. Then we're in the kitchen, me attempting to cook pasta while he watches with amused tolerance from his perch on the counter. The domestic normalcy of the scene makes his harsh response jarring. "Why not?" I challenge, stirring the sauce with perhaps more force than necessary. "It's a wedding. What's dangerous about singing at a wedding?" "Because it's not just a wedding. It's Antonio Benedetto's daughter's wedding, which means it will be attended by heads of every family in New York, along with associates from Boston, Philadelphia, and Chicago. It's a gathering of power, Francesca, and I don't want you anywhere near that environment." But they specifically requested me, because they know it would irritate me to have my lover performing for them like hired entertainment. He interrupts, his voice hardening. "Because putting you on display at their event is a way of demonstrating that they have access to what's mine. It's a power play, Cara, and I won't allow it." I set down the spoon and turned to face him fully, frustration bubbling up. "So I just turned down every opportunity outside of Luminosa because it might be connected to your world? Peter, that's ridiculous. Your world touches everything in this city. If I avoid everyone with connections to families like yours, I'll never perform anywhere but your venues." "Then you perform at my venues," he says with infuriating calm. "Is that such a terrible fate? You're well compensated, your audiences appreciate you, and most importantly, you're safe. Safe or controlled?" The question comes out sharper than I intend, but I'm tired of having my career managed by Peter's paranoia. Because from where I'm standing, it's starting to feel like the latter. His eyes narrow, and he slides off the counter with predatory grace, closing the distance between us until I'm backed against the stove. "Careful, Francesca. You're angry, I understand that. But don't confuse protection with control. Everything I do is to keep you safe from dangers you still don't fully comprehend." "Then help me comprehend them," I counter, refusing to be intimidated even as my heart races at his proximity. "Stop treating me like a child who needs to be shielded from reality. If I'm going to live in this world, I deserve to understand it." Something shifts in his expression. Surprise, perhaps, or respect. He studies me for a long moment, then nods slowly. "You're right. Come with me." He leads me to his study, a room I've been careful not to enter without invitation. It's smaller than his office in Midtown, but no less impressive. Dark wood, leather furniture, bookshelves lined with volumes in English and Italian. He moves to a wall panel I've never noticed before and presses something that makes it slide open, revealing a safe. "What I'm about to show you doesn't leave this room," he says, his tone deadly serious. "Not to Angela, not to anyone. Do you understand?" I nod, my mouth suddenly dry. He opens the safe and withdraws several folders, spreading them across his desk. These are dossiers on the 5 families currently operating in New York, along with associated organizations in other cities. This is who we're dealing with, who you need to be able to identify if you encounter them. For the next hour, Peter walks me through a world I've only glimpsed in shadows. He shows me photographs, explains relationships and hierarchies, details territories and operations with the clinical precision of a professor teaching a college course. The Benedettos control the ports and shipping. The Russos have construction and unions. The Santoros run gambling and certain nightlife venues. And the Romanos, Peter's family, have their hands in all of it, along with their legitimate holdings that dwarf the others in scope and profitability. "We're the largest family in terms of resources," Peter explains, pointing to a chart that looks like something from a corporate boardroom, "which makes us both the most powerful and the most targeted. Everyone wants what we have, and they're willing to use any leverage to get it. Including me." Understanding dawns with sickening clarity. "Especially you," he confirms. "Beautiful, talented, publicly visible, and clearly important to me. You're an ideal target for anyone looking to gain leverage or simply cause me pain. That's why the security, the limitations on where you perform, the careful vetting of everyone who comes near you. It's not about control. It's about survival." I sink into one of his leather chairs, overwhelmed by the scope of what he's revealing. "How do you live like this? Constantly watching for threats, unable to trust anyone, always calculating risks." His smile is bitter. "You get used to it. You learn to compartmentalize, to separate the business from the personal. And you surround yourself with people you can trust, though that list is considerably shorter than most people's." He moves to crouch before my chair, taking my hands in his. "But you, Francesca, you're the first person in a very long time that I've let past all those defenses. The first person I've allowed myself to need, which is why I'm so fucking paranoid about your safety." "I'm not fragile," I say softly, squeezing his hands. "I survived years of struggle, of invisibility, of men who wanted to diminish me. I'm stronger than you think. I know you are." His thumbs stroke across my knuckles, But strength doesn't make you bulletproof, Kara. It just means you'll fight harder when danger comes. And I'd rather prevent danger from reaching you in the first place than watch you have to fight it. We sit in silence for a moment, his revelations settling over me like a heavy blanket. Finally, I ask the question that's been nagging at me. What about Dante? What really happened after that night at Velvet Noir? You said you had a conversation with him, but what does that mean? Peter's expression hardens. Do you really want to know? Yes. No more secrets, remember? You promised me honesty. He stands, moving to pour himself a drink from the bar cart. Whiskey, neat, which I've learned means he needs fortification for whatever he's about to say. Dante Caruso was exactly what he appeared to be, a mid-level art dealer with delusions of sophistication. The woman in that photograph was his actual fiancée, someone he'd been with for 3 years. You were his diversion, entertainment while she was visiting family in Europe. The words land like physical blows, even though I'd suspected as much. So you had him. Visited, Peter supplies, his voice cold. By men who explained very clearly that you were under my protection and that any further contact with you would have severe consequences. They also suggested strongly that he relocate his business operations to the West Coast, which he did within the week. Last I heard, he's in Los Angeles, married to the fiancée, living a perfectly ordinary life, far from anything that matters. You didn't hurt him. There's relief in my voice, despite everything. Not physically, no. Though I won't lie, part of me wanted to. The way he used you, lied to you, threw you away like you were worthless. His knuckles whiten around the glass. It took considerable restraint not to ensure he understood that disrespect more viscerally. Thank you, I say quietly. For restraint, for handling it without violence. Don't thank me for being barely civilized, he says with dark humor. If he'd hurt you physically, or if he ever tries to contact you again, that restraint will vanish. You're mine to protect, Francesca. And I take that responsibility more seriously than anything else in my life. The possessiveness in his voice should alarm me, but I've stopped fighting what it makes me feel. There's something undeniably appealing about being claimed so completely by someone so powerful, about knowing he'd destroy anyone who tried to hurt me. Show me the rest, I say, gesturing to the folders still spread across his desk. If I'm going to live in this world, I want to understand all of it. Not just the surface, but the depths. Peter studies me for a long moment, as if assessing whether I can handle what I'm asking for. Then he nods and returns to the desk, and we spend the rest of the evening diving deeper into his world. He explains the economics of his various operations, the delicate balances of power and territory, the rules, both written and unwritten, that govern relationships between families. He shows me surveillance photos of known threats, explains which allies can be trusted and which require constant vigilance. By the time we finish, it's past midnight, and my head is spinning with information. But I also feel something I haven't felt since that first night at his penthouse, like an actual partner rather than a possession to be protected. Peter has given me knowledge, and with knowledge comes at least the illusion of agency. Thank you, I say as we prepare for bed, my voice thick with emotion. For trusting me with this. For not just treating me like something delicate that needs to be kept in the dark. He pulls me close, his embrace warm and secure. You deserve to understand what you've chosen. And if you're going to be part of my life, really part of it, then you need to see it clearly, including the ugly parts I'd prefer to hide from you. That night, I dream of photographs and family trees, of dangerous men in expensive suits, of the invisible web of power and violence that holds this city together. But I also dream of Peter's arms around me, his voice whispering promises of protection. the certainty that whatever darkness his world contains, I won't face it alone. The reality of that knowledge comes crashing down 3 days later. I'm at Luminosa, warming up before my Friday performance, when Victoria enters the dressing room with an expression I've never seen before, genuine fear barely masked by professional composure. "Miss Moretti, we need to leave. Now." "What? Why?" "I'm performing in 20 minutes. There's been a situation." She's already gathering my belongings, shoving them into my bag with uncharacteristic urgency. "Vincent is bringing the car around to the back entrance. Mr. Romano's orders are to get you to the penthouse immediately." My heart starts racing. "What kind of situation? Is Peter okay?" "He's fine, but there was an incident at one of his other properties. We're taking precautions." She grabs my arm, pulling me toward the door with a strength I didn't know she possessed. "Please, Miss Moretti, we don't have time for questions." The back hallway is already lined with security personnel I've never seen before, all wearing earpieces and carrying visible weapons. Vincent appears, his usual stoic expression replaced by grim determination. "Let's move," he says, positioning himself in front of me as we navigate through the kitchen, where the staff has been cleared out, and out into an alley where a car waits with its engine running. I'm bundled into the back seat, Victoria beside me, Vincent in front with another guard I don't recognize driving. The car pulls out into traffic with controlled urgency, and I finally find my voice. "Someone tell me what the hell is happening. Right now." Victoria exchanges a look with Vincent, then turns to me. "There was an attack at one of Mr. Romano's warehouses in Red Hook. Arson. 3 men dead, and the Santoros are claiming responsibility. It's the opening move in what could become a significant conflict between families." The clinical way she describes it, 3 men dead, makes my stomach churn. "And Peter?" "Is handling the situation. But he wants you secured before anyone thinks to use you as leverage. This car will take you directly to the penthouse, where additional security is already in place. You're not to leave for any reason until Mr. Romano gives the all clear." The rest of the drive passes in tense silence. When we reach Peter's building, I'm rushed through a private entrance I didn't know existed, up an elevator that requires biometric identification, and into the penthouse where at least 6 guards are stationed throughout the space. "How long?" I ask Victoria as she deposits me in the living room like precious cargo. "Until the situation is resolved." "I'm sorry, Miss Moretti. I know this isn't what you signed up for." But it is. I realize as she leaves and I'm left alone with my guards and my fear. This is exactly what I signed up for when I chose to stay with Peter. To love a man whose world operates on violence and power. The comfortable routine of the past weeks was the illusion. This, the fear, the guards, the sudden disruption, this is the reality. Hours pass with excruciating slowness. I try to distract myself with television, with music, with anything that will stop my mind from imagining Peter in danger, from picturing him hurt or worse. The guards maintain professional silence, their presence both reassuring and deeply unsettling. It's past 3 a.m. when I finally hear the private elevator, and then Peter is striding into the penthouse, his expression thunderous. There's blood on his shirt. Not his, I realize with flooding relief, and his knuckles are bruised. He looks like violence personified, and I should be terrified. Instead, I run to him. He catches me, his arms crushing me against him with desperate strength. "Thank God," he breathes into my hair. "Thank God you're safe." "I'm fine. Victoria got me out before anything happened." I pull back to look at him, taking in the bruises, the blood, the exhaustion etched into his features. "Are you okay? What happened?" "Later." He dismisses my questions with a head shake. "Right now, I just need to hold you, to confirm you're real and safe and here." We stand like that for long minutes, clinging to each other while the guards discreetly retreat to give us privacy. Finally, Peter pulls back enough to cup my face, his eyes searching mine. "I'm sorry," he says quietly. "Sorry you had to see this side of things so soon. Sorry your performance was disrupted. Sorry that loving me means nights like this, where you wait in fear while I handle situations that could get us both killed." "Stop apologizing," I say firmly. "You warned me. I chose this anyway. I chose you, Peter, knowing what it meant. So stop treating me like I'm going to break the first time things get dangerous." Something shifts in his expression. Pride, maybe, or relief. "You're extraordinary. Do you know that? Most women would be running for the door right now. And here you are, telling me to stop apologizing for dragging you into a mob war." "Is that what this is? A war?" His jaw tightens. "It could become one. The Santoros have been looking for an excuse to test my position for months. Tonight's attack was their opening salvo. How I respond in the next few days will determine whether this escalates or gets resolved through negotiation. And how will you respond?" His eyes go cold, and I see the dangerous man Victoria spoke of that first day. Strategically, decisively, in a way that makes it clear attacking what's mine comes with consequences they can't afford. But not tonight. Tonight, I just want to be with you. He's still wearing the blood-stained shirt, still carrying the violence of the evening in the set of his shoulders. But when he kisses me, there's only tenderness, as if I'm something precious and fragile he's terrified of damaging. We don't talk more that night. Peter showers while I wait in bed, and when he emerges clean but still carrying the weight of whatever he had to do, I simply open my arms. He comes to me like a man seeking absolution, and I give him what comfort I can, loving him through the darkness, proving with my body what I've already told him with words, that I'm not going anywhere, that I'm his no matter what his world demands. Later, as he sleeps with his head on my chest and his arm locked around my waist, I stare at the ceiling and understand with perfect clarity what I've become. Not just Peter Romano's lover, but his partner in this dangerous dance. His anchor when the violence of his world threatens to consume him. His reason to maintain whatever humanity he can amid the ruthlessness his position requires. It's a heavy responsibility, loving a man like him. But as I stroke his hair and listen to his breathing, I can't imagine carrying anyone else's weight but his. This is my life now. Our life. And whatever comes next, we'll face it together. The war Peter predicted unfolds over the next month with the brutal efficiency of a chess game played by masters. I watch from my gilded fortress as his world erupts in calculated violence. Warehouses burning, shipments intercepted, men disappearing into the night. Peter moves through it all with cold precision, making calls in Italian that send shivers down my spine, hosting meetings in his study that leave the participants pale and shaken. He never brings the violence home to me directly, but I feel its weight in the tension of his shoulders, the shadows under his eyes, the way he holds me at night, like I'm the only solid thing in a world turning to chaos. My performances at Luminosa continue under heavy guard, providing brief respites where I can pretend we're just a normal couple. Him watching me sing, me losing myself in music that feels like the only pure thing left in my life. The Santoros are backing down, Peter tells me one evening 3 weeks into the conflict, his voice carrying weary satisfaction. Dominic called this afternoon to propose terms. They'll compensate me for the warehouse and the men I lost, cede control of 2 shipping routes they've been disputing, and most importantly, they'll formally recognize that you're under my protection, and therefore untouchable. I set down my wine glass, processing this information. So it's over? For now. He pulls me against his side on the couch, his arm heavy across my shoulders. There will always be another conflict, another family testing boundaries, another situation requiring my attention. But this particular threat has been neutralized, and they understand the cost of targeting what's mine. What's mine? He says it so casually now, this claiming of me as his possession. And I've stopped fighting the terminology because in his world, being claimed means being protected. It means no one else can touch me without consequences that would make them regret being born. I have something for you, Peter says, reaching into his jacket pocket. He withdraws a small velvet box that makes my heart stutter. Peter, it's not what you think, not yet. He opens the box to reveal not an engagement ring, but an ornate key on a platinum chain. This is to a safety deposit box at First National. Inside are documents, a new identity with passport, birth certificate, driver's license. Cash. Instructions for reaching contacts who can get you out of the country if anything happens to me. It's your escape plan, Francesca. Your guarantee that if my world ever becomes too dangerous, if I'm ever unable to protect you, you have a way out that doesn't depend on anyone else. I stare at the key, understanding the enormity of what he's giving me. Not just escape, but agency. The power to choose safety over loyalty if the situation demands it. You're giving me permission to leave? I'm giving you the tools to survive. His hand cups my face, his expression more vulnerable than I've ever seen it. I love you enough to ensure you can live even if I can't. That's what real love means, Francesca. Caring more about their survival than your own happiness. Tears blur my vision as I take the key, feeling its weight against my palm. I won't need it. I'm not leaving you, Peter. Not for danger, not for fear, not for anything. You say that now. But if the day comes when staying means dying, I need you to use what I've given you. Promise me, Kara. Promise you'll choose life over loyalty if it comes to that. I can't make that promise, not honestly. But I see the desperation in his eyes, the need to believe I'll survive him if necessary. So I nod. I promise. He fastens the chain around my neck, the key settling between my breasts like a second heartbeat. Then he kisses me with a desperation that speaks of relief and resignation. Relief that I have an escape route. Resignation that he's acknowledging there might come a time when I need it. That night, we make love with an intensity that borders on violence, as if we're both trying to prove we're alive, we're together. We've survived another crisis. Afterward, as he sleeps with his face buried in my neck, I finger the key and wonder if I could ever actually use it. If Peter died, if his world collapsed around me, could I really run? Or would I go down with his ship, choosing to drown with him rather than swim to shore alone? I don't have an answer. I hope I never need to find one. The following Friday brings unexpected normalcy. My regular performance at Luminosa without incident. Peter and his corner table, the audience appreciative but not threatening. It feels like coming up for air after being underwater for weeks, and I lose myself in the music with relief. When I finish my set, Victoria appears with her usual professional smile, but there's something else in her expression. Excitement, maybe, or satisfaction. Wonderful performance, as always, Miss Moretti. Mr. Romano would like you to join him at his table. He has someone he'd like you to meet. Curiosity propels me through the restaurant to Peter's corner, where I find him in conversation with a distinguished older woman I don't recognize. She's perhaps 60, impeccably dressed, with silver hair styled in an elegant chignon and eyes that assess me with sharp intelligence. Francesca. Peter stands as I approach, his hand settling possessively at my waist. I'd like you to meet Sofia Castellanos. She's a talent agent who represents some of the biggest names in music. My breath catches. Sofia Castellanos is legendary. The woman who's launched careers, negotiated record deals worth millions, transformed unknown singers into household names. And she's sitting at Peter's table, looking at me like I'm her next project. Miss Moretti. Her voice is cultured, warm. Peter has been singing your praises. Forgive the pun. For weeks now. I finally convinced him to let me hear you perform, and I must say, The reality exceeds even his enthusiastic descriptions. You have a remarkable instrument and an even more remarkable ability to connect with your audience. That's rare, especially at your age. I glance at Peter, who's watching this exchange with barely concealed satisfaction. This is what he does, I realize. Uses his influence to create opportunities, moving pieces on a board to benefit the people he's claimed as his. And he's just moved a very significant piece in my direction. Thank you, I manage, trying to process what's happening. That's incredibly generous of you to say. I'm not generous, dear. I'm strategic. I don't take on clients unless I see genuine star potential, and you have that in abundance. She produces a business card from her clutch, pressing it into my hand. I'd like to discuss representation. Properly launching your career beyond these intimate venues, though they're certainly lovely. Recording contracts, touring opportunities, the kind of exposure that transforms talented singers into household names. If you're interested, call my office on Monday, and we'll set up a formal meeting. After she leaves, I turn to Peter with a mix of gratitude and suspicion. Did you arrange this? Did you pressure her to offer representation? His smile is enigmatic. I arranged the meeting. The offer is entirely based on her assessment of your talent. Sophia doesn't take clients as favors, no matter who's asking. She heard you sing and recognized what I've known since that first night at Velvet Noir. That you're extraordinary and deserve a stage much bigger than this. I should be angry at his manipulation, at the way he orchestrates my life like conducting a symphony. But as I look at this man who's used his considerable power not to control my career but to create opportunities, I can only feel overwhelming love. Thank you, I whisper, standing on my toes to kiss him. For believing in me. For using your influence to help, rather than hinder. I'll always use everything I have to help you succeed, Francesca. Your dreams matter to me. Your happiness matters. And if I can leverage my position to give you opportunities you might not otherwise have, I'll do it without hesitation or apology. The meeting with Sofia Castellanos on Monday confirms what Peter promised. She wants to represent me based purely on talent, with contract terms that are more than fair. Within weeks, I'm recording demo tracks at a professional studio. Within 2 months, there's interest from multiple record labels. And throughout it all, Peter is my constant support, attending sessions when his schedule allows, offering feedback that's both insightful and encouraging, celebrating each small victory like it's his own. My life transforms yet again. But this time, the change feels earned rather than given. Yes, Peter opened the door, but I'm the one walking through it, proving that his faith in my talent isn't misplaced. The performances at Luminosa continue, but now they're stepping stones rather than the destination. Sophia has me performing at increasingly prestigious venues, building buzz, creating demand for an album that's still being negotiated. You're going to be famous, Angela says during one of our increasingly rare phone conversations. She's still wary of Peter, still worried about my involvement in his world, but even she can't deny the professional opportunities that have emerged. Actually famous, Frankie. Like people will recognize you on the street famous. Are you ready for that? I don't know if anyone's ever really ready for fame, but I'm determined to handle it with grace. The girl who sang in subway stations for pocket change never imagined this kind of success. But the woman I've become, the one who's survived heartbreak and danger, who's learned to love a complicated man with a dangerous life, feels capable of handling whatever comes next. 6 months after that first meeting with Sophia, I sign a record deal with Atlantic Records that makes me dizzy with its implications. An album, promotional budget, tour support, everything a struggling singer dreams about, now within reach. Peter celebrates by taking me to dinner at Daniel, and over champagne that costs more than my old monthly rent, he proposes. Not with words, but with a ring, an emerald-cut diamond surrounded by smaller stones, set in platinum so finely crafted it looks like lace. He slips it onto my finger as dessert arrives, his eyes holding mine across the table. "I want to marry you," he says simply. "I want the world to know you're mine, not just in practice, but in law. I want to wake up every morning with you beside me and fall asleep every night knowing you'll still be there. I want to give you my name, my protection, everything I have and everything I am. Will you marry me, Francesca?" There's no dramatic gesture, no getting down on one knee. Just Peter Romano, one of the most powerful men in New York, asking me to officially become his in the only way our world recognizes. And there's only one answer my heart will allow. Yes. The word comes out choked with emotion. Yes, I'll marry you. His smile transforms his face, and for a moment, he's not a crime lord or a businessman or a dangerous man who's killed to protect what's his. He's just Peter, the man who heard me sing and decided I was worth saving. The man who's given me everything: opportunity, protection, love, without asking for anything in return except my presence. We marry 3 months later in a private ceremony at his penthouse, with only a handful of people in attendance: Victoria, Vincent, Marcus from Luminosa, Angela, who's gradually made peace with my choices, and Sophia, who's become not just my agent but a friend. Dominic Santoro attends as well, a gesture of respect between families that Peter says matters politically. I wear ivory silk that flows like water, simple and elegant, with my hair loose the way Peter loves it. He wears a tuxedo that makes him look like he stepped from a classic film. And when he says his vows, promising to love, protect, and cherish me through whatever life brings, I believe every word. "You've made me happier than I thought possible," he whispers during our first dance, his arms solid around me. "You've given me something to fight for beyond power and position. You've made me human again, Francesca. I'll spend the rest of my life ensuring you never regret choosing me. I could never regret loving you," I murmur against his chest. "You saved me, Peter. From invisibility, from settling for less than I deserve, from a life half lived. Whatever dangers come with being yours, they're worth it for the chance to be loved like this." My album drops 6 weeks after the wedding, and it's everything Sophia predicted. Critics rave, sales exceed expectations. My single climbs the charts with surprising speed. Suddenly, I'm being interviewed, photographed, recognized when I walk down the street with Vincent shadowing me. It's surreal and overwhelming and absolutely intoxicating. But the best moments are still the quiet ones. Coming home to Peter after a long day of promotion, losing myself in his arms, singing softly while he works in his study. The fame is wonderful. The success, gratifying. But nothing compares to the feeling of being loved by this complicated, dangerous, impossibly devoted man. "I have news," Peter says one evening as we're preparing for bed. His tone makes me look up sharply, recognizing the careful neutrality that means he's about to tell me something significant. "What kind of news?" He takes my hand, leading me to sit beside him on our bed. "I've been working with federal prosecutors for the past 8 months, cooperating with an investigation into the Santoro family's illegal operations. They've offered me full immunity in exchange for my testimony and evidence I've provided." I stare at him, trying to process what he's saying. You're testifying against them? But Peter, that's incredibly dangerous. You said yourself that betraying the families usually results in death, yes. His grip on my hand tightens. But I'm not just betraying them, Kara. I'm dismantling them. The evidence I've given the prosecutors will take down not just the Santoros, but several other families as well. And in exchange, I get immunity for my own activities and protection for both of us during and after the trial. Why? I breathe, my mind racing. Why would you risk this? His free hand comes up to cup my face, his thumb stroking across my cheekbone. Because I want out, Francesca. I want to legitimize everything. Walk away from the darkness I've lived in for decades. I want to build a life with you that doesn't involve violence and danger and constantly looking over our shoulders. And I want our children, when we have them, to grow up with a father who's more than just a criminal legacy. Children, future, a life beyond the shadows. He's offering me something I didn't realize I wanted until this moment. Normalcy, safety, the chance to be just Francesca and Peter rather than the singer and the crime lord. What happens now? I ask, my voice shaking. Now we prepare. The trial starts in 3 months. We'll have federal protection. Probably need to relocate temporarily while testimony proceeds. Your career will continue. Sophia's already coordinating with the prosecutors to ensure your tour schedule isn't disrupted. But our lives are going to change significantly, Kara. I need you to be ready for that. To be strong through what's coming. I think about everything we've survived already. My heartbreak, his war with the Santoros, the integration into his dangerous world, building a marriage amid chaos. If we've survived all that, we can survive this too. I'm ready, I tell him firmly. Whatever it takes to give us a real future, I'm ready. The next 3 months are a whirlwind of preparation. Meetings with prosecutors, security briefings, contingency planning for every possible scenario. My album continues to sell, my fame grows, and through it all, Peter remains my anchor. He testifies with devastating effectiveness, his detailed knowledge of criminal operations providing prosecutors with everything they need to secure convictions. The trial makes national headlines. Mafia boss turns informant, criminal empire crumbles, and suddenly our lives are dissected by media outlets around the world. I'm no longer just the rising star singer, but the woman who made Peter Romano want to change. They call me his redemption, his reason for choosing light over darkness, and while the attention is overwhelming, there's truth in it. I did change him, just as he changed me. We transformed each other, turning invisible singer and untouchable crime lord into simply Francesca and Peter, 2 people who found each other in the darkness and chose to walk toward the light together. When the verdicts come down, guilty on all counts for the Santoros and several other defendants, Peter's immunity holds. He's officially out, legitimized, free to build the life he promised me. We relocate to a penthouse in Los Angeles, where my music career continues to flourish, and where Peter builds a legitimate business empire from the ground up. It's not without challenges. Some people will always see him as the man he used to be, and there are threats from surviving family members that require continued security. But we handle it together, facing each obstacle as partners, rather than protector and protected. 5 years after that first night at Velvet Noir, I stand on stage at the Grammy Awards, holding a golden gramophone for Best New Artist, and thank the people who made this moment possible. I thank Sophia, my label, my fans, and I thank Peter, my husband, sitting in the front row with tears in his eyes, the dangerous man who heard me sing about being invisible and decided I deserved to be seen. You saved me, I say, my voice carrying across the auditorium. You saw something worth fighting for when I couldn't see it myself. Everything I am, everything I've become, exists because you believed in me. I love you. Later, at the after-party, he pulls me into his arms and whispers against my hair. You saved me too, Francesca. You gave me a reason to want better, to be better. You're my greatest victory, my most precious possession, the love I never thought I deserved. Thank you for choosing me, for staying with me, for becoming mine. Always yours, I murmur, and mean it with every fiber of my being. We dance in the glittering ballroom surrounded by celebrities and industry executives, 2 people who found each other in unlikely circumstances and built something beautiful from dangerous beginnings. The girl who was invisible found a man who made her seen. The man who lived in shadows found a woman who led him into light. And together we built an empire not of violence and fear, but of love and music and second chances, proving that even the darkest beginnings can lead to the most beautiful endings.